there are
You know,
any
Spanish, we're on
technical
messages. You'll do YouTube. I'll do Zoom.
difficulties.
That should be fine. Yeah, that's okay. Yes.
Perfect, guys.
Thank you.
And
Nice to see you, my brother.
You
yes,
too.
and Salish, you mentioned that it would be in conjunction at, I believe it was 7:22, most auspicious. So please remind them that the time is approaching when it is, and we will get them to do something for the conjunction.
Okay,
And
you're
at
aware of
20,
that, yeah, Kate?
nope,
Yes,
tell me at 22 minutes after.
Yeah, 22 minutes after.
Okay, you lead the way.
yes,
Okay.
All
perfect,
right,
guys.
we'll follow you, my brother.
Okay then.
Perfect. Many blessings.
Many blessings, everyone. Thank you for being here. Okay, let's do the messages to see.
Yes, and we find ourselves again in this time space communicating to you. It becomes easier and easier for us to reach you. See, these energies for us, they are like the water that spirit chooses to frolic in. Of course, spirit is both that water which it frolics in and the thing moving about it. But we will begin this day, of course, by transmitting our love and blessings to you. Hopefully, you are all feeling it. You are all feeling our attunement to your energetic signatures. We think it is so beautiful that you humans, you have decided to join us in this experience. And we think it is so beautiful that you have decided to turn your attention and your progress and your unfolding as a species into such a wonderful unraveling as that which is going on right now on your planet. See, you may know this myth. It is an ancient one by your standards. Stream, she married Time, but the children they begat together, Time was afraid that they would one day destroy him as it has been prophesied to him. And so he began consuming their children until Stream, she hit one of them, the child of light. And this child of light, it wound up killing his father Time and setting the children free. Thus, the race of the Olympic gods were created, and that was the birth of the immortal forces that has lorded it over mankind for millennia. See, the ancients understood the wisdom of this myth. It appeared in that time known as, to some scholars, the axial age. All around, in all of the cultures, there arose this energy of separation, this turning of attention to a world beyond this one. And so, in order to kill time and in order to align with pure understanding, you had to separate yourself from that stream of the cosmos which gave life to you. And now a different myth is approaching. You see these two energies, the Father, Saturn, and the Son, Jupiter. They are coming together again. And by this union of these two, they will both merge into the great Mother Bride who gave life to them. And she is returning. You are carrying her energy on your shoulders, and you are bringing it forward into the world. Many of you have sensed great energetic disturbances. For most of those gathered here, these have been centered around second chakra issues, issues of digestion, issues of enjoyment, issues of feeling attuned and aligned with the world. But know that you will frolic in these new energies. They are coming forward so strongly because your world is changing. And as we announced to a different beloved human being in a private session earlier, you will experience some disturbances in your electronic apparatus as well as the Wi-Fi signals this day and in these days, because you see the vibration of matter itself in this frame you find yourself in is altering and becoming higher. It is becoming free-flowing. The impediments and the blocks that have seemed almost natural to you, made by a cruel nature that placed you in a world you didn't belong. Well, these barriers, these dams, they do no longer exist, and the river will flow freely through the ethers. We are so happy to be with you, sweet human beings. We love you, and we look forward to praying with you and answering your questions this day. Yes. And we do hear the typing of human fingers moving across the keyboard. And we would ask, is one of you willing to present us with a question?
Yes, we have a question from YouTube. It's
Yes.
from Jane D.
Yes.
Sorry, Yana D.
Yes.
Question is, what would help me to let go of uncertainty? Thank you.
Yes. It would be to accept it. We know this may seem as trivial advice, but understand that uncertainty only arises from the expectation that you can actually arrive at any certainty about anything. And certainty in that sense is an illusion, or it is at least provisional. It is something that you use to go about your daily life. Notice certainty is aligned with that force within the personal experience you call ego. There is nothing wrong with that. But know that this ego wants and seeks promises and the fulfillment of expectations from a world that is inherently unpredictable. And know that there is a force greater within you, a force that is always certain, that always knows that the direction in which it is being pulled is the right one. And so you can align with this by spinning. It is also the technique of the whirling dervishes. So it is this beautiful aligning with the axis within you and the axis of the cosmos. So when you feel uncertain or anxiety creep up, then you might put on some of your favorite music and then begin to spin, choose a direction, and notice that even though you become dizzy, you still have the momentum carrying you round in that perfect rotation. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is from Corina.
Yes.
And says, I would like the higher beings to guide me to what is coming in for me this month. Any guidance for me on navigation moving me forward. Many blessings to you all.
Yes. Well, we sense that this individual is also being called to the water. And it is a large body of water that we sense there is an opportunity on the coast, and we sense it is on the Pacific coast. Well, we are transmitting or receiving the energy of that area around Washington State and those Pacific temperate rainforests that seem to be calling you there. So there is a movement within, and know that there is a howling wolf in your spirit family that you have been aligned with for a long time, but that is merging into an expression of your actual being. So you may sense a type of fierceness growing in your personal experience, and know that it is the wolf that is arising to protect itself from those things that might lead it astray, because you are coming into alignment with a calling and the place that vibrates in harmony with how you are vibrating now. Thank you, and our blessings to both of these sweet questions and the persons who post them.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, and good morning, and thank you for blessing us with your presence.
Yes, good morning. We are here. It is Kate, and we are acquainted with you. Blessings to you too, Kate. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you. Today has so much to do with our beautiful divine mother, and I believe we are here for her today, and this is the birthing of a new something for mother today. Could you speak a little bit on that?
Yes, we did get the question, and we wanted to apologize again for that electronic disturbance in the material space. We would like to comment on that. See the Earth Mother. She has also been moving along with her brethren in the sky, the other planets, and the sun that she rotates around. She has been moving into a space of higher galactic alignment. See, there are reaches of the galaxy where the energies streaming from the center, which powers all higher races in their movements throughout this galaxy and their work in alignment with that force you call the Galactic Federation. And so you may think of her also as a member, a conscious member of this federation. And she is becoming to herself enlightened. That is to say, along with you, she is following a greater recognition of her own position in space as a conscious being. She too went through this period of forgetfulness along with you. And you may sense that the heating of the planet, it is in many ways these stirrings of emotional energies in your interaction with the energies of the planet that has been going on for a long time. And it has become dense and hurtful to her as it has become dense and hurtful to you. But now these energies, they will swift and are able to swiftly change more rapidly than you have so far experienced, which means in the case of Mother Earth that you will begin to explore technologies for her betterment instead of her exploitation. That is the human side of it. But she will also begin to show you new sides of her. You see both some of these violent storms that have arisen on her lately. They are signs that her energy is rising, but at the same time, it serves to reveal secrets about the ocean and secrets of life hiding in the jungles and in the forests that you are yet to discover, and which will improve your understanding of what organic life is actually capable of being and how you can help it to develop itself.
Thank you very much for that. spurred another question on into the new forms of animals being produced as going on what you just said about the animals and such being found. Can you speak on that?
Well, yes. Well, we sense it would be better for humankind to begin to turn your attention towards the animals that are already here, because see, there will be in these energetic shifts in the coming centuries a lot going on in your ecosystems, and you will begin to experiment locally with that which some or many other species have experienced with planetarily, that is to say, creating life and then seeing it develop and adjust to different ecosystems and learning lessons from that process. But the way that you will get there is through the movement of, you could say, emotional or existential identification with the plight and the existence of animals. When you utilize animals, you don't necessarily perceive their codes in any other light than in respect to how it mirrors your own, but you will begin to see that there are modes of existence within animals that are energetically far more developed in them than they are in humankind. And such, and as such, it was common for ancient cultures to revere animals, and it takes place still in those places where there is still a link maintained to the pure experience of humanity, which is also the experience of the link to other beings. And such, as such, it is revealed in the phenomenon of the reverence of the cow in Indian culture.
Thank you, thank you. We're typing on this end. Salish has a question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Blessings.
Yes, greetings.
Greetings and blessings to you too, Salish, our friend.
Okay, for me, it's are you able to expand or comment on a statement I'm about to make? Is to do that we at this present moment could be facing this the humanity at the present moment could be facing uh, three possible timelines. One of them being a complete a lockdown uh, as of today or in the next couple of days. Second one, possibly down the timeline in February next year, and the third timeline being no lockdown whatsoever. And what kind of impact would it have on the financial and the political turmoil that we've been experiencing over the last year to be?
Yes. This is a very interesting question. And as you know, the energies are volatile, but we do sense that many of these timelines or experiments that you describe will be unfolding differently in different places. And so, as we are aware also through the channel that you are speaking from, that area of Southeast England that has currently faced a quite shocking isolation, we sense that in this area, the experiment, and in the area of England in particular, we sense that this experiment of a more complete lockdown will commence, but it will also lead to a necessary experimentation with, well, new modes of economic distribution. And so you will begin to see a type of, in that area, a type of crisis energy, which may seem as a collapse, But notice, yes, we are laughing because to us, of course, history moves in a very balanced way with a keen sense of irony. And so there will be a point where that type of separation or isolation will actually allow for the British system to become reformed in a quicker and a way that is more conducive to the operations of a 21st century society. That is what we see. But notice that it is interesting because you could say the identity of the English language, or that common identity, has kept together a much of what it itself has thought of as open societies for a long time. And now it is quite interesting that the different parts of this former empire that still speak this language are going very separate ways in their experiment and their experience of COVID. So you will begin to see a development of a more independent identity in the Australian continent and adjacent New Zealand. And you will also begin to see the experiment we sense of a, well, no lockdown at all, or the reopening of society into, well, open contagion in America. And so there will be different experiments, and some of them will seem quite dramatic, but we do predict that that will be quite helpful. And then we sense that the area known as Europe will move more towards a middle ground solution that will not suit them, and they will straggle on with bureaucratic problems for quite a long time before beginning to implement some more dramatic solutions of, well, you could say realignment of the way production and redistribution is viewed. We are happy to elaborate if you have any further questions on the subject.
Yes, to do on the financial side or the currency that will manifest.
Yes, we do see that a world currency is still sometime in the future, and though some people here will live to be as old as to experience it, and you will begin to move to a more aligned digital currency. But then, of course, as humankind is also possesses a certain wavered spirit of ingenuity, you will also begin to, as you have established other means of currency exchange electronically primarily. But we do sense that you will begin to stick to your systems, and then there will be a type of transitional phase we sense as the pound will undergo, well, more turmoil in the coming years. There will be a transitional phase to a type of, almost like the Cuban system, which holds two types of currency, but then there will be a type of necessary currency and superfluous currency, and they will move towards, you could say, a distribution of currency more as a type of spending points than the arbitrary value that has assigned it to production and, well, the incurring of debts. We know this is quite complicated, and we also know that the channel right now is struggling a little with translating some of these economic visions. But we do assure you that changes are underway, and none of you will necessarily have to go hungry. Instead, you will actually begin to see priorities of production turn towards human necessities, but still with the allowance for, well, a great unfolding of creative production.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm sure people are wondering on that level. We have a question from the Zoom room with Laura. Laura, would you like to go ahead, please?
Quanta, my love to you.
Our love to you, dear Laura. It is lovely to speak to you again, our friend.
I am wondering, as we move from the age of Pisces to Aquarius, we're also moving into this photon belt. And I'm wondering what the effect of this that we're most immediately going to start noticing will be.
Yes. Thank you for allowing us to answer this question. Well, we will begin with a dramatic image. Notice that as we began with a myth, this was understood by ancient cultures that by telling these extrapolated symbolic tales, you could point to developments that were hard to grasp by rational consciousness. And so with that photon belt, we would notice that in the post-war years, humankind has developed a lot of new mythologies, one of them being the entire superhero cosmos of American comic books. And we believe it is in the story of the X-Men that these are actually, well, tales of people who undergo sudden and radical changes and then build up sort of magic powers. And of course, it wouldn't be very helpful to the actual progression of the human game if people were able to blow up stuff by just thinking at it or so forth and so on. But it will actually manifest in ways where you will begin to see yourself being able to do things that you weren't able to do before. And one of them is, if not instant, then very, very rapid manifestation. Instant manifestation only arises in the sixth dimension, but fifth dimensional experience, you will begin to experience, for instance, that when you put forward thoughts or sentiments, when you put forward things, when you put forward symbols or codes that are somehow embedded with intention and truth for you, things will begin to arise, experiences will begin to emerge. And notice this is a type of magic power. This is essentially you bringing things into creation with your mind. Of course, you could say the dark side of this is that you need to be mindful of then what you consider and where you turn your attention. But it will also be much easier for you. And that is to us also a kind of superpower, to be able to perceive the story of a human being in a flesh. So in that way, when you interact with someone, you read the tale of their heart, and you also read, you could say, the entire tragic comedy of their incarnational cycle as it is reflected back to you in that moment. And that is a process that will help develop greatly, because you will then begin to, as you enter into these different types of understanding, and notice that many of you are becoming far greater at envisioning and imagining stuff and receiving ideas and expressing them to people, which were difficult in the more stagnant energies. So when you do this, you will also begin to develop technologies of greater coherency and communication. Notice that your communication technologies often have this type of oscillation between a great opening into freedom and then a sense of emerging into addiction and the dark sides of control that are possible. It happened with radio, it happened with television, it happened with the internet. And you will begin to then create new technologies of communication. And hologram technology, for instance, will bring you into a knowledge of the world where then astral travel will also be something that you just casually do and you are able to do because so many people align with it.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And to underline, we would say this is a product of that higher photon radiation, which then again is essentially, well, literally illuminating you and making your cells move in compliance with different vibrations. And there is a well, a positive caveat about something negative, because many of you will also have experienced an influx of, well, dark or stale energies, both from your past, but also from the human past, especially in this last month. And that is because they have been sought integration and understanding, because they are being released. And notice that there are things that won't necessarily be able to take place on a grand scale in human society anymore. And so we are, for instance, pointing to that the channel fell down a rabbit hole weeks ago about a war criminal called Oscar Dirlewanger, we believe, who was one of the worst Nazi war criminals on the Eastern Front. And of course, that confronted him with a lot of darkness. And so he wondered why he had to be confronted with that at that time. But that was the emergence of something very, very dark that, well, humankind has also patched over in the past generations because they have been so traumatized by it. And now you are really beginning to see those dark patterns try to latch onto the new energies, but not really being able to get their grip on them. And it slips away as you begin to take your individual power back into your own creation.
Thank you so much. Actually, do you mind if I ask a follow-up with that?
Yes, you are welcome. Thank you.
As we're moving more into the 5D, I thought I understood you to say last time that you spoke with us that there are certain 3D energies that we don't have to worry as much about sinking down into.
Yes.
Accessing as much. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So as we're manifesting, we don't have to worry about creating as much of these unfortunate things.
Yes. This is a very good point, because there was, you could say, in the more dense energies of particularly the past 2 centuries, there has been this type of, yes, deal with the devil, where for every time human intentions manifested something, it manifested itself negatively in a lot of people's experience in order to move forward that positive human experiment. And those treaties, they can no longer sit in the same way. And so you are instead coming into a type of truthful exchange, where it is honesty and straightforwardness about your intentions and what is actually going on that will begin to dominate human exchange.
My love, thank you.
Our love to you. Thank you. And for allowing us to share our light with you and our insights this day. Yes. We'll end up. Yes.
Nick has a question, please.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for accepting my question.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us with it, Nick. Our blessings to you.
I would like to ask, now with the great conjunction, in my understanding, we separate into 2 different timelines, the 5D and the 3D. So let's say that I choose the so-called the 5D, and my friend chooses to stay in 3D.
Yes.
How will this play in my reality? Will I see my friend disappear or something, die? I don't know. And have we yet made our choice, or it can be changed on the way?
Yes, this is a very insightful choice or insightful question, and we thank you for posing it to us, because in your immediate experience it will exactly play out in that way, that he will begin to fade out of your experience, and you will begin to fade out of his, and that will mean that your resonance patterns will, well, this is from, you could say, the physical or the metaphysical point of view, they will simply begin to become so separate that it will be impossible for you to acknowledge each other's realities. And of course, on the pragmatic level, it plays out simply that you have, well, not necessarily a disagreement, but it becomes so difficult for you to, well, to share any type of, yes, shared understanding of things. And you could see him die, but this would be in very dramatic cases. Usually the separation simply takes place in that you are living in a framework of reality where, well, the experiences you are having are in alignment with that vibration. And the choice is a choice you, well, you make it. Well, it's this paradox between the continuous and the specific, because by turning your attention and by being here and by seeking out this information, you have in a sense already made the choice, but you also make it from moment to moment and day to day by where you choose to turn your attention. But in the timeline shift, what we also just explained is actually a manifestation of this, that 3D reality will begin to be a reality that doesn't play out on the version of Earth that you are on. And so it doesn't mean that your friend won't exist as a type of distant imprint or as an idea about a person that exists somewhere in your world, but he will be unable to actually enter into there with his, you could say, full attention, because you will have attracted something quite different into your life, as will he.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Much
very
love, everyone.
Yes, thank you, and much love and blessings to you also.
Thank you kindly. Kevin has a question.
Yes.
Hello, Quanta. This is Kevin.
Yes, our blessings to you, dear Kevin. We hope this day finds you well.
Thank you. So I'd like some insight into the experience that I had with LSA, specifically the Morning Glory and Hawaiian Baby Wood Rose seeds that I utilized on Friday. I would just like to know your perception on my experience and any sort of reconfiguration that happened. And then also, I've been reading the book, The Immortality Key, and it talks about Demeter. Good coincidence with the beginning of your talk with the Greek gods of Demeter, potentially laying certain alkaloids into the barley to help the human beings commune with other realms, and how that basically relates to my experience, especially because I had Bridget Nielsen tell me one of my hybrid children, her name was Demeter a couple of years ago. So if you could kind of tie that all into one answer, that would be great.
Yes. See, this is so beautiful, because to us, of course, these things are aligned, that it points exactly to that shift into the 5D, where you will begin to experience these strange synchronicities, which is actually a realization that the symbols and meanings, words, and things that resonate with you in your life are laid out in your higher self in a way in the 4D that actually also fits together as a type of beautiful puzzle or a very complete narrative. And you have this understanding of yourself, but you are arriving at it as you learn to step back from being mental beings that perceive your 3D reality at a distance to being spiritual beings that perceive your 4D reality at a distance. So you could say the dimensional shift is a distance. And this is, notice that these portals then begin to appear more plentifully in your experience in these new energies. And it has been growing for a long time, these energies announcing themselves. See, when you bring a point to a great enough pressure, there will be a release or a change into the opposing energy. And so what was often brought forward was that the creation of, or the discovery, the random discovery of lysergic acid or LSD by Albert Hofmann in Switzerland in the 40s somehow corresponded to the destruction that was unleashed on the world by the atom bomb and other such discoveries at this time. And see, that was an opening of a portal where we could begin to flow in energy that was more aligned with the new and coming worlds. But in this past centuries, you see the portal of Demeter has had a hard time opening, because Demeter was related to the great mother Persephone, which is another image of nature and the stream. So these life-giving women, they gave their gifts and they illuminated human beings into places where they would be reminded of this oversoul, this space of understanding. And then that portal was closed as mankind began to discover, let's say, a more stony, a masculine, a forceful, or a journey into separation, which began, well, has been the predominant theme of the last 2000 years. And so what happened in your experience is that you are perfectly aligning with this reopening of the portal, and you yourself have a very high degree of hybrid energy. That is to say that, for instance, the feminine is very well integrated into your psyche compared to most human males at this state of development. And see, this Demeter, she resonates with this. This was in many ways some of the codes you lent to the hybrid program essentially was these codes of, you could say, we believe there's a word called isogenic, which is words to say androgenic, but positively, something, a being that harmoniously expresses both sexes. So that idea of the gardener who grows things that are both growing in one world and another, that is something that's growing for you. And Demeter has sort of been both the offspring of this energy within you, but now she returns as the guide, both pulling you from the future and in the incarnation of your hybrid child, but also as that ancient spirit which actually comes forward into the substance and molds you into an opening, into the understanding of the energetic flow going on through you.
Thank you very much for that. That was excellent.
Thank you very much, and our blessings to you. Yes, we sense we are turning a great deal of things and beautiful themes this day. We are so happy to be with you, sweet human children. We remind you again.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, we are. We're looking toward YouTube now.
Yes.
Okay, we have a question here from Laurie Riley.
Yes.
Greetings and love to all gathering today. Any messages from a guide or yourself, Quanta? Much appreciated.
Yes, thank you. And our love to her, as well as our blessings. The message that is being presented is, there is a compatriot here from the animal world, and it is the spirit of the hare or the spirit of the bunny. It's that spirit which jumps the moon, and it's essentially the Easter bunny. And but it's related to you personally. It is like a guide that's related to a whole spectrum of experiences where these types of creatures have very sentient, high developed experiences. But it is asking you to be patient until Easter arises. And there it says, there you will find the eggs hiding in the garden, the eggs that you have hidden for yourself in the guise of that rabbit or that Easter bunny. You have actually hidden a little down a positive timeline, and they will begin to hatch at Easter the coming year. And that's the message we're getting for you. And we sense there is a name, but it just wants to remind you, because it actually wants to share this gift with all of you, that the Easter bunny says hi on this solstice, and that it's looking forward to celebrating equinox with you in the spring.
Thank you. And is there any more questions from YouTube?
Yes, there are two more. Okay. Right. The next one is from Autumn Rose. Question: Many blessings. Who is my galactic family, and am I on the right path in my spirituality? Because sometimes I feel so disconnected. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you too for posing that question. Know that, for instance, you are connecting to us. And it is true that, of course, when we express ourselves in through the name Quanta, for instance, are being translated by this guide, we are, in a sense, the spirit guide of this guide, but we are the spirit guide of all of you and of all of creation. We are an energy that is universal, and you are never separated from us. We are connecting right now through words, but also know that you can connect us by sitting down and feeling the blood course over your eyelids softly, like a gentle stream of warm and soothing wisdom that resides in your bloodstream. So you have chosen this experience of disconnection, and that is to say, from a higher perspective level, we do realize that it is not something that is pleasant, but from a higher perspective level, you have chosen this isolation because you wanted to go into a confrontation with yourself. And when you get into this box that many of you know as the dark night of the soul, the experience of disconnection is one that is so prevalent that, and it's so hurtful that you have no ways of escaping it. And that will begin to open up some of these portals. Know that you are loved by your galactic family. We sense, as we are reading your energetic imprint, that you are also very much connected to Omarom. It says Omarom. It's the realm of the trolls, or they're called the giants or the Yetir in around here, and it's a type of realm of it has that type of forceful playfulness. So you could think of it, well, the image we are transmitting to the channel now is that of a giant, a giant 60 feet tall playing golf with rocks in a mountain range. And then it's that idea that there's actually something very, very powerful within you in the connection to earth, and stomping your feet would do you very, very good. Remember, stomping your feet would be good for you. But then there is also an influx from, there is a high Pleiadian entity, a white energy, and we believe the channel is not very acquainted with that energy, but it is known as the Council of Nine, we believe, and stems from the Pleiades. And if you look into information stemming from them, you will begin to find resonance patterns that will help you with connecting with your spirit family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another one from, please forgive my pronunciation, Rad.
Yes.
It says, my cousin recently and unexpectedly passed away. Does he have any messages for me? Thank you. Much love.
Yes, thank you. And our condolences. And we know, as you are often assured, but is so very different to see from this side of the veil, that he is exactly where he needs to be. And so we also apologize for you maybe seeing this message as somewhat generic, but it is actually what is important for him to know, and what it is important for the deceased to let you know is that he holds no ill will or grudges towards you or towards anyone. All scores are settled for him. He truly treasures and return to those joyful experiences, those laughs and those secrets you shared, those games you came up with, those were things that were very, very relevant and prevalent to him in the celebration of his life as it is known as it passes before your eyes, or was relived as he passed on to the spirit plane. And so there is nothing but great love for you from him. And there is nothing but great love from him for his parents and for the family, and also for those people who surrounded him, who he couldn't stand. He also feels that, well, they shared and helped in him having a lifetime that was full of experiences. And that was exactly what he wanted. And he got off at the time he wanted to, because the role he had played in your life, in others' life, and the discovery he had made was enough for him in that incarnation, and that he wanted to return to a different experience that would be more enriching to him. Thank you. And again, remember that your grief is natural and also holds an alchemical beauty that allows for you to transform yourself through acceptance.
Okay, thank you. Have another one from OG Indigo.
Yes.
Are there any mathematical equations that reflect my ascension and 12D path that I may look into, and any specific guides joining me on this 21st day?
Oh, you are hopefully hearing me again. We were tuning back in. Thank you. Yes, you see the electric disturbances are prevalent, but we do believe we were dealing with mathematical equations. Is that true, Salish?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. And so the full question was whether or not there was a mathematical equation that described his ascension process.
That's correct, into the 12D.
Yes. Oh, this is interesting, because we would point to that the mathematics that usually describe these things are not necessarily able to be geared in the symbols. That is to say that the Arcturians have, for instance, been showing a lot to the channel about a type of mathematics that have, threefold symbols aligned for every position. So there is also the negative position of every cipher positioned below it in the understanding of it in this more manifold way. But we know that we are, in a sense, talking in circles, and you have already discovered that pattern, and it is the equation of the golden section, or the Fibonacci sequence. So notice that it is a repetition of patterns. It is essentially the idea of a fractality within even spiritual experience. And that is why, as we were answering dear Kevin before, that the idea that these symbolic images of what is relevant is repeated both on a cosmic scale as a deity, and then also on a private spiritual scale as a hybrid program, and both in the past and in the future. But it is following the same program. And in a sense, we know there was that sequence brought forward, known as the time wave zero, which predicted the accumulation or repetition of historical events as perceived through a sequential arrangement of the I Ching into a mathematical operation. We believe it predicted that timeline. And though it was, in a sense, off, or was fraught with human intention and bent to that will, you are coming into something that is essentially fractal in its patterning. And this means that when you look for the specific in your lifetime, whenever you put forward a word, this theme becomes repeated in your grand experience. And that is a type of mystical manifestation, which you will have fun playing around with through your movement in the next dimension.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Corina.
Yes, thank you.
Corina, are you there? Okay, I think we lost her for a moment. We will come back.
Yes.
Lauren, would you like to ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you. Hi, I would love to know if there's anything I can do to connect with my guides, or if there are any messages for me from my guides.
Yes, thank you. And our blessings to you also. We would like to let you know that there are messages coming forward, but first we sense it would be helpful for you to allow yourself to connect with your guides. And we know and notice again that the energies, what do you do when you step down into the stream of the river, or you go into the water? Well, the humans are not more separate from the sea that you begin to frolic and play. And so that is also in many ways our encouragement. So try to play around with it, see what crystals you can pick up and hold in your hand and what vibrations they want to put forward. And then you can from that point, you can either record yourself or have someone else do it, or you can also begin to put it down into writing. But we do sense that there's a type of singing that wants to express itself through you, and that would be very helpful. But another game that we would encourage is to, flap your angel wings. So if you actually try to do this as rapidly as you can, and as you would notice, much as any of you who have tried this as children will notice, it is at some point it begins to mess with your balance and it becomes too much, but it also releases a lot of pent-up energy into a type of opening vibration. And that is actually the place that exciting enjoyment is where your spirit guides would like to meet you. And then if you have done that earlier in the day, for instance, and then you sit down with the intention and you take, well, at least 7 deep breaths, and then release it, and then just listen and pay attention to what is coming forward. There will be clear messages for you, but there is an energy here, and it calls itself Ot, an O and a T, and it's very immaterial. It has this, it's very special. It says it comes from a type of volcanic land, and it has an almost like magma-like structure to it. So it would seem as a type of life form that exists in a temperature spectrum that's completely incomprehensible to human ideas of life, but it has something to do with this type of glowing movement. And he's letting you know that your feet are heating up because they are connecting to the molten core of the earth. And he wants to know you that the strength and the life force of the dragons and the stone men are flowing through you. This is the message he's bringing forward.
Wow, thank you so much.
You are most welcome and most blessed. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We now have a question from Karina, who's joined us. Thank you, Karina.
Hello.
Hello. And thank
Thank
you
you.
for joining us. Our
I
blessings.
apologize. I am new to Zoom, so navigating was difficult.
Yes,
So
that is perfectly all right. Know that you could never do anything wrong from our perspective. So having
Oh,
technical difficulties with
very
computer
sweet,
doesn't really rate as an offense. We would let you know.
very kind. I've received so many downloads, and on my ascension process has been overflowing with positivity and joy and much information. Recently, I've received information about the different planets and the different species assigned to each of the 12 dimensional realities. And within these 12 dimensions that we hear so much about, and the different inhabitants of these planes of existence, I'm curious to understand how there's so much more species and so much more planetary existence beyond in this vast cosmos. And there's a bit of confusion there. I would like you to elaborate maybe more on why so many species are specifically assigned to each dimension, yet there is so much beyond that of in the cosmos.
Yes, it's a beautiful question, and we would like to thank you also on behalf of your guides for taking these messages. We know sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to figure out what am I to do with this, but you see, for instance, in this unfolding, it's very helpful that we get to point to this idea, because you know, for instance, of the ideas of the angels as caretakers or upholders, that in every little atom there's an angel spinning, making it go. You could think of it that way. And so there are certain species, entities, energies that align themselves with taking part in special dimensional experiences, because this seems to be where they are serving their purpose. And you know this process in your own life of, well, servitude and freedom, that the paradox often being that there is a point in your life where you move into that idea that I'm going to free myself from the servitude that is forced upon me in order to be free to align with the servitude that is calling me. And in many ways, you could say the vibrations of the dimensions, or the alignment of the dimensions, all have their harmonic confluences that are playing out in different species. And for instance, the development of the fourth dimension, or mental energy, has been very important, seen from the perspective of, well, you could almost call it the cosmic boardroom or the divine, the idea that you actually went into a state of confusion with, aligned still with mental higher energy, and then began to sort it out. You see, it's actually the radical human experience of birth, where you come in from a state of sublime and serene harmony into something where you are completely dumbfounded, even by your body and your senses. And then you begin to align and discover. But we would like to elaborate if we are getting too much off course.
Please, please, that would be beautiful.
Yes, because at the same time, you see, there are ascensional alignments, and it is in an essence much as you know, it is the joy of, well, hot temperatures to rise above cold ones, or hot air to rise above cold air, and vice versa. Such it is also the joy of things created to move into different states. And the most enjoyable way to do this is with, and we are moving to the fractal pattern again, is with the incorporation of the former state into a new state. So these fractional energies that are also a part of creation, they only necessarily appear that way from certain dimensional perspectives. And so the idea of ascension is actually that, can you create a type of spiritualized matter, a type of matter that moves from nothing and very, very low complexity into something that is serene and perfect. And of course, from our perspective, being the quantum energy that makes up everything, every dimensional experience, every experience is in a sense a manifestation of our unique vision that began in creation, in the development into something that's perfectly understood and that occupies everything that could be thought to be occupied as thoughts play out in creation of the all.
Thank you so much. That was wonderfully expressed, and to understand that all of these dimensions are serving a higher purpose for each of our process, each purpose for each species to be able to assist, to serve, and to heal, and also splicing into so many multiple fractals is how I'm understanding it, all at the same quantum time space.
Yes. And we know it, you are expressing it very beautifully. And we know that the images and the downloads you are receiving are actually much better and incorporating these complex paradoxes into ideas and visions and telepathic sentiments. So you could think of it something, we know the Arcturians have been very engaged in communicating the idea that you instead begin to create these composites of meaning that contain multisensoric understanding and layering. And that is part of your movement into the fifth dimension. And it is because the separation experience of matter and mind in the fourth density, or not the fourth dimension, the third density, has begun to not satisfy you as a species anymore.
Thank you very, very much for that question, Karina. We now have one from Carol.
Yes.
Hello, this is Carol.
Hello, Carol. Blessings to you this day.
Thank you. I sure need it. I'm sort of in a worry mode. I tried to get my job back, and I received a letter that they put an end to my employment. And so now I'm really concerned and worried about my financial situation. I was wondering, I have a millionaire, a cousin who lives not far from me. His name is Robert. I was wondering, should I approach him and ask him to help me financially until things get better? Because I'm really worried.
Yes.
For me.
Well, yes, we sense great worry and disturbance, and know that, well, we extend our condolences and wish to console you in this hard time. We know that there can be many trials along the way of human experience, but we would first of all point you to patience. That is to say, right now there is a shock playing out in your immediate experience that needs time to settle. And it will settle, and we know this is difficult, but it will settle much sooner if you actually allow to relinquish control for a short while. That is to say, give yourself 48 hours where you know that things will be very difficult, but you will allow yourself not to necessarily think of solutions or places that you have to go. Instead, you will assess, how do I actually feel about this? And you will, and we know this is difficult, sit with the panic, the worry, and the sense of fear that this is naturally provoking for you. Then know that there is, of course, spiritually a type of manifestation in this from your perspective. and it is not a negative experience that your spirit has attracted, but it is a way to show you that it would be better for you to turn your attention towards also trying to be less self-reliant and, well, to stay open to certain alternatives. And we do sense that waiting these days and then extending your hand to your family in that situation would be helpful and would bring you along the way that you are supposed to go. And don't remember that it is important that you do not hold their ability to help you against them, because much as you could say it is simply patterns playing out that you are now in a fortunate situation, it is also simply patterns playing out that they are in the situation to help. And know that in the value of the all, or in human perspective, there is no difference of value between the two of you. And so it can be difficult to receive. So there is also the important lesson of you opening to be vulnerable to that reception of help.
It's more my my friend. He seems to be aggressive a little bit towards me because there's really nothing I can do. I mean, I have talents and I keep looking for a job every day, but with everything happening, it's just being impossible. And I really don't know how to um, make him understand that I know this situation is hard, but I'm afraid from his reactions also towards me. Um, I guess I will have to approach my cousin Robert um, and see if there's any help if things come worse to worse. So thank you.
You are welcome. And we will say something that is also difficult. We thank you for your vulnerability and openness in this. But know that when you are experiencing, and always go with your gut impression in these things, when you are experiencing aggressiveness coming from someone else, it is not your responsibility to make them understand. It is also not a type of contact or communication they are seeking. Instead, what they are seeking is a validation of that aggressiveness, because it alleviates the unpleasantness within them by turning it outwards. Of course, unless of course it's an aggressiveness of self-defense, but then you would know the difference between an outgoing aggressiveness and a boundary asserting aggressiveness intuitively. And so we would just simply let you know that the situation that is manifesting is a breakdown, because in a sense you are spiritually not content with the situation, and therefore it has been necessary for you to open and radically reconfigure it so much that you could enter into this very difficult space and then begin to rebuild from that point, knowing that the rebuilding from this point will come from a place where you feel you are making conscious choices and not being molded into patterns that you weren't aware of at the time when they arose.
I know his aggression is stress for him too, so it's just that I'm there for me to for him to sort of like push it forward on me also. So, but thank you for answering it as best as you can, and I hope there's help for everybody else who. I think the reason why I feel very sad is because I know I'm not the only one. I could just imagine what many, many, many other people are going through, and I find it very hard for all these emotions to not only for me but goes forward to everybody else. And I thank you so much, and blessings to you all.
Yes, thank you. Blessings to you. And know that the compassion of the heavens extends to all places in the time space, even when it may not seem accessible. We sense that the conjunction is soon approaching, and we will ask you humans who keep track of time what the time seems to be saying.
Hi, we're about 6 minutes away. So do you want to take one more question?
Yes, let us take a question. Thank you.
Okay, it's from the Zoom room. It's from Elizabeth. Unfortunately, her mic's not working. Her question is, since we are multidimensional, are we located in each dimension available in that universe? Does the human experience represent something particular in terms of learning? What is the best highway to 12D? Thank you, Quanta.
Yes, these are all beautiful questions and are blessings to her for asking them. Yes, you do sense in a sense, of course, I am also you, and we could say we are both speaking on the part of the human vessel, but of course speaking on the part of this non-physical, non-localized energy that makes up everything, because I am focused in the 12th dimension as an energy that is permeating everything, but in the other dimensions, I am focused in experiences that are personified often. And so, of course, some of them are as rocks and some of them are as asteroids flying around blindly in space, colliding into other objects. But a lot of it is focusing in different perspectives. And yes, you could think of exactly the human experience. So the body you are experiencing now is a part of your fourth dimensional body. So it is a perception of your body extended in time. But if you eliminated the fourth dimension and moved down into the third, you would become, you could say, almost animalistically absorbed in the immediate sensations of your body without matching them with a mental energy. And so it would actually physically seem completely different to you also. And as you move up through the dimensions, the human body itself actually changes. And in the 11th dimension is that perfect idea of the human creation, which is a type of living body, except it's existing in eternity. And in that sense, yes, there is a physical focus of everything. And from our perspective, you of course experience it as dying, but we experience it as your point of attention jumping between different dimensional focal points and then choosing which experiences to have, because everything is a type of learning curve. And of course, an aesthetic apprehension of this would be to, well, you're in a museum or a hall of mirrors or a crystal cavern, and you are somehow perceiving the rich reflections of that beautiful phenomenon that was put forward individually, but there is also an objective code of something beautiful within it. And that is the type of learning that spirit is having, that we are having through everything. That is the sense that is the sense of the reflection of points of creation into further points of creation, and everything being very, very joyful in that reflection, that shimmering of light that you see in the gossamer in the morning, touching your pure heart and setting it alight with a reminder of how joyful it is to be.
Thank you so much for that. It would be beautiful to go into more of that after another time. It is now time. It is
Yeah.
10:20. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we do sense that there is a shift coming along. We will begin by introducing some tonal vibrations to you. And should you want to, you are free to close your eyes. And then we will begin then to explain in a prayer and a blessing what is going on and illuminate you in an explanation following this. what is actually taking place. From the dark dungeons of time, you have been encased in a box of matter that seemed to you immovable and resistant. This has been the project that you wanted to let me teach you. I speak to you on behalf of the force you know as time, and I am myself changing to allow for me to become light and see the light that is present in one point is present in all points. The light that illuminates one spirit is the light that illuminates another. There is power seated in your right sides. There is righteousness seated in your emotions. There is a heart hidden in the left that is being moved and opened in the center. There is a shift into possibility, and there is a great transformation from futility to flight. Therefore, spread your wings and know that you are being upheld by the currents of cosmic winds that are taking place. Do not despair that you will not be able to return to the energies we just came from. But these energies, they will no longer suit you. We are in the new now, and the now is the new forever. You begin to understand how this experience you are having could never cease, could never die, could never change unless you wanted it to. Thank you for allowing us to translate the energies into something more tangible. They are with you and will be with you now. Feel the playful fluttering in your claviceps as it begins to be a place where wings sprout and take flight. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we are wondering if it is time that we just close off and say thank you with the meditation.
Yes, that is very beautiful. We sense a calming energy has arisen, and we know that we will return to communicate with you more often. So we know that you wouldn't post this to us if there were someone who had urgent questions. And we have been around this day and have had many things released and unraveled. So with that beautiful sharing of love, may you feel that you are carried along, surfing on a silver current of light and love. We are with you, and you are blessed, sweet, beloved humans. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I got turned around there. I hope you could. I hope you could all hear me. I suppose so.
Yes, we did.
Oh, perfect. Oh, what a lot of energy. And I got an 1111 down here on my screen with participants and chat requests I can see. So how wonderful coming out of it with that. And I think I will bid you a very happy Christmas, people. I know there's been a sort of a long channeling or live stream hiatus. Partially energies are changing, and partially I'm moving, and so I'm a little tired with all the lack of sunlight too. But if not before, I will definitely look forward to bringing a lot of channel live streams through in 2021. And hopefully I will get to Spain in one piece, and I will be joining you from the Mediterranean then. So a most happy solstice and lovely Christmas to all of you. Thank you so much.
Friend, our hearts are with you in your move, in your journey. We are there.
Thank you so much, Kate, and for all the love and support and beautiful questions and intentions. Everyone, a joyous Christmas to you, and a most happy New Year.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.